Bill Daughtery for sending us some money. That is certainly some happy stuff here. Thanks for all you do. I love the video about the digital U. This is for your tequila fund. Also, go Astros. Hey, thank you very much. When are you planning to get to work? How long? How's it going? Hello from Missouri. Hello from British Columbia. I have an attention span of a gnat. Stuff don't happen. I'm gonna go zone out. All right. Are we all here? I see a lot of you. Awesome, awesome. How's the sound? I'm testing a new microphone that came in the mail, so I should ask my staff how the sound is. Oh, good. People like the Protecting Digital U. That is a part of a talk that I give. So it's a little different than stuff in the content that's usually on my channel. So there's that. I'm using a different microphone by Saramonic because I'm traveling soon and I have some interviews to do. So I see the audio appears to be working fine. So I assume people can hear me. Sound is a bit tinny in the headphones. It's not going to be the same quality because the microphone that I'm usually using is, let me think, twice as expensive as the entire wireless mic setup kit that I bought. The new UniFi is already. I didn't look. Is the new UniFi out? I didn't see a notice for an update. Let me look. I really wasn't doing anything in the UniFi dashboard today. Today was not a UniFi dashboard day. Let's see, what's in the UniFi dashboard? Are we to the 12 yet? Good question. So let's sign in. Oh, you notice I got 2 laptops. We'll talk about that in just a second. That'll be our piece of errata that I cover. Yeah, I don't have a notice to update, so I don't think it's available. The new 12 series, so you go from the 511 to the 12, is coming, but it's not, to my knowledge, under general availability yet. It's still in beta. So sound is okay. Awesome. I will do a review of these mics, but they're the Saramonic Blink 500. That's what I'm using right now for the microphones. There's 2 of these, and it's so I can go on site more. That's what a lot of these microphones are. So yes. And my laptop died. My Lenovo died, but my other Lenovo works. But this is my new Lenovo, but it's fixed. So while we're just getting on, and before we get into some of the other topics, I'm impressed. So first, I contacted Amazon. I just had it 32 days when it died. 32. They have a 30-day return policy. 32 days. Damn it. Anyways, so the laptop dies, and I go to contact Amazon, 32 days, blah, 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 blah. And we're like, oh, we'll contact Lenovo. Okay. I reached out to Lenovo yesterday, and because once it said contact Lenovo, I'm like, I'll put it off to the burner. I'll put it off for a couple days. Guys, busy doing everything else. I'm like, it'll be difficult. It'll be a pain. No, it wasn't. They said, I went and did the chat thing. The chat thing says it's going to take 13 minutes because you're in a queue, whatever. I left that screen, dragged it over there, and I think it got there in 9 minutes because it kept skipping a little bit and getting faster. I'm like, okay, cool. Contact the Lenovo, explain the problem, explain it was dead as a doornail, talk to them what I did, and today it's fixed. I just finished reloading it. I just got to put the finishing details on there. But yeah, Lenovo had the next day, they had someone out here fixing it and then replaced the motherboard. And they came here, I don't know, around, I think maybe 2 or 3 o'clock. So less than 24 hours of contacting Lenovo, or maybe 24 hours contacting them, it is repaired. And they would come to me. So I was really impressed. So that's pretty cool. Someone said thought it was available. As far as I know, it's still in beta. So yeah, Lenovo is super good, is what someone says, and they're not wrong. So one of the things about Lenovo, and this goes back a long time ago, if you look up Cory Doctorow, he's one of my, I'm a big fan of a lot of the stuff and a lot of his writing, and he talks about why he uses Lenovo laptops, and one of them is the fact that he travels a lot, and their warranty is they'll come out and fix it right away, and that matters a lot. He's a writer, and he used to work for Electronic Frontier Foundation, but he said their warranty's always been amazing, and nonetheless, yeah, that's a big deal. So that's the fact that they came out. Now this is I just reviewed this one. This is my L480, and this is still my X250. So one of the things about running Linux, and this is one of the reasons I did like the apt clone video, I don't really think about reloading my computers much. It's kind of a whatever thing. One, I talk about syncing. Any data I care about is backed up in real time. Two, I have package managers, and apt clone is one of the tools I use. Before apt clone, I would just manage a bunch of packages in a list, but that was a more complicated way to do it. That's why I started using apt clone, because it's a less complicated way. And I just did a video about it because it was fresh in my head, because I also have a handful of other laptops. One of my friends let me borrow his laptop and try Linux on it. It didn't work very well. It's a Dell XPS with an OLED screen. It's a brilliant laptop, but Linux is less than compatible with it. So I don't know if it's worth doing a video about why you shouldn't buy this laptop for Linux versus these. But the nice thing is, like, these laptops work great with Linux. So that's been, matter of fact, the new 1910 version, the trackpad works out of the box. No more, I mentioned when I was loading 1904 that you have a problem, and 1910 works right out of the box perfectly fine with this. So yeah, and these are both running the same 1910 Pop OS. And for those of you wondering about Pop OS, this is kind of an interesting thing, and I'm going to do a side-by-side because people just don't believe me, I guess. They keep telling me Pop OS is some one-off thing. It's not really that much of a change. These changes are subtle, but they're nice. One of the things that's interesting, the power management and some of the features of the Dell that didn't work at all in the new version of Ubuntu, they do work in Pop OS out of the box. Now, of course, you can make the changes to get them working in Ubuntu, but with Pop OS, those changes got baked right in, which was actually really handy. So that was actually pretty cool. So Pop OS has that little bit of polish, those little driver back-end things that aren't super visual, but enough to say, hey, that's nice. And side-by-side comparison, because I ran Ubuntu on it at first, playing around with it. I'll do a comparison at some point when I find some time to kind of put the two side-by-side. I was going to load two VMs and put them side-by-side and walk through the differences between them. But, whatever. Let's see. Yeah, T430 running it. Like I said, this is an old X250. This is noticeably faster. I do like this L series one. Now the L series, as I understand, and it's not as clear on Lenovo's website, but if you get the L series, it doesn't have the removable battery and things like that. Like I say removable, like in you can't just pop it out of the bottom. You actually have to open it up to remove it, but it's not that big of a deal. It even swapping the motherboard, by the way, when the guy came in, popped this open, swapped the motherboard from start to finish, from doesn't turn on, break it down, replace the motherboard, under an hour. It takes no time to take these apart. Lenovo's are designed in a way, they didn't glue it all together. So it's all screws, he laid them off. Matter of fact, he liked the fact that I let him do it all right here in our studio. And he's like, oh, this is nice. And you know, it's really bright. When we turn the overhead lights, it's really bright in here. So that went really well. Let me look at something here. All right, I gotta fix the screen problem. So let me fix my displays. Turn on Do Not Disturb so I don't have a bunch of pop-ups. And we're going to fix the display so I can show things here. Displays, and we got to choose Mirror. And we'll do Apply, and let's see what happens. Keep changes. Oh, that didn't work, but don't worry. We can fix it. We have the technology. This was a weird problem that for some reason after I do the display refresh, it does that. I don't know why. Thanks for whatever update caused that stupid problem. So there you go. Anyways, back over here. So let's look at the UniFi download. Because someone's asking about it, I'll take a look here. I'm interested. I know there's some menu changes in the new one. Let's do the UniFi 511 right there. This is what's not beta, by the way. There is a beta channel. You can get into the beta, but that's that's the beta. This is the non-beta version of their software. So 5.11 is still the current. 5.12 I know is the upcoming. So I'll just throw it out there, guys. I don't always review the betas. Maybe I will. I don't know. Maybe I should spin up another virtual machine just because, and that might be interesting. But backups. I did the video on backups. And actually, let me pull up the forums because someone had a question. And I think it is a good question. And this is a good topic because I wanted to talk about this today. And I read this is posted. I'll read it because I know this text is going to be really small. But I enjoyed the LTS Tom video on MSP 360 Cloud Area we've been using for a while, etc. But the concern, and this is a very valid one, when you're pushing 4 to 5 terabytes to the cloud, like Wasabi, Backblaze, or cloud provider of your choice, what are the concerns about getting that data back? And this is an interesting topic that I'll reply to. You have to have this discussion with your client. This is part of a business continuity plan. This means more than backup. And what I mean by business continuity is you have a discussion, a very real one. This is where you go beyond some tech guy who says, well, I backed it up. This is where you have a business continuity discussion with a client in a more intelligent way where you go, all right, I can back up your 5 terabytes of data, but storing it in the cloud, great, we can back it up. Your data is definitely there. How long can you live without your data? Because here's what a business continuity disruption looks like. Losing data, and if you need that data, we can't just restore it in a few minutes. It may take a few days. These are important things you have discussions with your clients because that solution may be you working with the client to have a secondary location that's local, having a, maybe it's your own office where you store data here in an encrypted type vault setup or on a free NAS box because they need it physically local because they can't avoid that disruption. Or you, in the case of one of our clients, they go, we only need it for reference. If we didn't have it for a couple days, our larger archive of data is less critical to us because we never need it on a critical basis. We just need to maintain it. So it really comes down to the use case. But yeah, this is a concern when you start uploading massive amounts of data to the cloud is how quick can you get restored. That's also a concern, and the reason why so many of these companies go out and pay the ransom. Because yeah, companies can have perfectly solid backups, but if it takes them a week to restore all the backups because 100 machines got encrypted versus sending out a tool to unencrypt all the machines that were encrypted, it comes down to a business decision. What's faster? Have a week of downtime or have an hour of downtime and pay the ransom and get the business going faster? It's a money decision at that point. So you have to think about that from a business continuity standpoint. So that's what I think about that post in the forum, but I think it's really relevant kind of talking about backups and business. Let's see. My Core 2 Duo runs Ubuntu better than Fedora. I don't use Fedora enough to give you any real opinion on it. Let's see what else I'm trying to follow on this. UniFi questionnaire. I want to move my UniFi controller over to Linode from DigitalOcean. Nope. It's actually really easy to move it because if you're using DNS, if you're unifi.yourcompanyname.com, when you switch controllers wherever it lives, you can actually just move the controller and restore it to another IP address as long as you registered all your UniFi devices with a full path, a DNS entry, not an IP address, you're good. Unfortunately, we've helped a lot of people who registered them all by IP address, and when their IP address changes, they have all kinds of headaches. There's ways around it, ways to fix and rechange the inform URL after you've done it that way. It's just better to use a fully qualified domain name for your UniFi so it's easy to switch back and forth. Let's see. Oh yeah, we have plenty of shirts on Teespring. There's links below and everything else. What's your opinion on a new free UNMS cloud? UNMS is not a full-featured system like the UniFi is, so I don't really use it much. It's cool. It's a monitoring system, so more and some backup config and notices, but I don't know. It's okay. I don't think it's anything bad. That's something that gets me all excited. I'll at least say that about it. But I also want to bring up, because I did mention NordVPN, so we'll jump into that. So there's some notes. I'm just going to find it here. Where'd it go? I got to find it in my history. It's open on my other computer. So I seen the folks over at, let me pull this up, and we'll talk about this real quick. So NordVPN hack, everything you need to know. I like the title at least. I don't know. I don't know if it's really everything you need to know, but it's certainly some stuff here. Hold on. Why did that person call? I'm doing a live show. They can't talk to me right now. Let me turn my phone off. Anyways, NordVPN, everything you need to know. So this is a deep dive into the NordVPN hack summary, blah, blah, blah. Now, there's a few different things in here, so you guys can all read along, because I know the text is small. So, there you go. So those of you that want to know, this is over on restorerprivacy.com/NordVPN-hack. And I seen someone say, this is a worst case scenario. And I'm like, not really. Here's the thing. Nord is using perfect forward secrecy. This is the same thing built into like TLS 1.3, where there's an extra key exchange, so it's an encryption within an encryption. When it's an encryption within an encryption, it generates a unique key for every session. So if you unravel the outer layer by which they stole the keys for, there's an inner layer. But if someone were to spoof NordVPN, yeah, they would probably turn off that encryption, and they could sniff your traffic. Oh no. Oh, it depends on what you're running across there. Honestly, I mean, let's just come to terms with it, folks. You use NordVPN not to really hide your privacy, but because you torrent things. We'll just throw it out there. So the worst case scenario is let's say the MPAA wanted to send out notices because you're torrenting something you shouldn't be on some movie allegedly or something, and that's the more likely scenario why you're doing it. So worst case is someone gets to see your torrent traffic. And then that person probably wouldn't be able to use it within a court of law due to the fact that if they were to spoof and hack Nord to try to figure out who is using Nord, to try to send out a lawsuit notice. I mean, I'm not saying it's not bad, but when people are I tweeted this and made the video about it, people are like, this is the worst thing ever. And I'm like, no, not really. I mean, it's bad, but when you kind of think about it, my laptop travels with me places, and so it goes into harsh environments. So I am always doing my best to encrypt everything about my laptop, not only the files on it at rest, but also any sites I go to. I'm always making sure every site is HTTPS. I'm making sure that I am doing things in a secure manner, because whether you have a VPN or not, you want to make sure the entire transport layer of whatever site you're going to is encrypted. And because of that, the site's encrypted. Then there's a perfect forward secrecy, encrypted again, then the NordVPN encryption encrypted a third time. So you think about there's 3 levels of encryption. So just because they were on it, that did not entitle them to any of the keys on your system. So it is a difficult, by the way, this was a server in Finland. So yeah, this is the part that's also confusing. They do break this down. How did the hacker get the TLS keys? We don't know for sure, but there's like a couple different theories on it. Also, because this got posted, it's how you find out you're hacked is a very, very difficult problem. And the way what happened with Nord is this got dumped into it sounds like 8chan. Yeah, 8chan. Someone dumped this out on 8chan, so that's how it's one of those proof it got hacked. Okay, here's your keys. Well, if you got my keys, you clearly were in there. So, and then they can just change their keys, and as long as they can't produce those keys again, now they have new keys, and the keys have been changed. Well, these keys are expired, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's very interesting. But when it comes to things, I always think about the fact that I encrypt everything anyways because I just don't trust anything. And also, I've done a video on DOH. If you're using DOH, that's the edge case where you should use a VPN, so to speak, as they like to claim in all the ads, when you're at an open hotspot at like a McDonald's or anywhere offering free Wi-Fi, they ask you to encrypt everything. Well, the thing is, if you're using something like DOH, the reason you want to encrypt is if you're using the Wi-Fi, they could poison the DNS and get you to go to a bad site. But one, the security certificate doesn't match. Like if you're going to Amazon.com, and some people will just click ignore. 2, the poison DNS is because DNS is done in a clear, unless you're using something like DOH, where it encrypts your DNS, or you're using DNS over TLS, which also encrypts your DNS. Once you have encrypted DNS, even without a VPN, hijacking it just became much, much harder. Now they have to figure out how to poison your encrypted DNS, which doesn't really work as well. So it's kind of a lot. I thought it was interesting, but you should be encrypting everything at every layer. That's the important part of that. So it's just an important thing to think about from an OPSEC, from your operational security standpoint, to make sure you're always encrypting everything. That way, if the incident of Nord happens, you're like, that's annoying, but that's not bad. It's not the end of the world. And the likelihood of someone wanting to see what torrent traffic you have and then identifying your actual IP address in there seems unlikely. How can NordVPN prevent it happening again? Good question. This is a problem. VPN providers do not work on massive margins. They kind of bank on you buying the service and they have like a 3-year deal or something. They're not a sponsor, but I know I've seen like they've been a massive ad campaign. They bank on you buying it. They bank on you forgetting, losing the password, or just not using it. And they oversell or oversubscribe. So they've oversold all this bandwidth, oversold all these accounts, and have all this pile of cash that they put in the server infrastructure. But they're still leasing it because running a data center is substantially more expensive than running a VPN service that you lease a server from. What I mean by that is if they were to spin up and have their own block of IPs, they have another problem that comes in. Someone was complaining, and this is a perfect example, someone was complaining I was blocking VPNs on my website, and I'm not. I'm blocking bad actors who attack my website based on IP address. What IP addresses are they using to attack? VPNs. So what happens is if an IP address gets too blocked, or Netflix decides to get rid of it and you can't watch it no more, so you're got the VPN to get around some country locking, and they just have to then shift those IPs to another thing. If you have a data center and you have an ASN assigned to it, suddenly that gets a whole lot harder to do. So they just lease spots all over the place because it's cheap and inexpensive, and they can move them at will. Therefore, they're not in control physically of their hardware. So could this happen again? Yeah, someone could lift the keys again on any provider that doesn't run their own hardware. And even one that does, at some point, unless they're absolutely in control of that data center from start to finish, including the security teams there, and they have no disgruntled employees who ever get the keys, because that's one of the theories would happen, then it won't happen. But yeah, it's statistically, and I've always said before, if you're a 3-letter agency and you're looking for the bad actors, go run a really cheap VPN service. Just make it $1 less than whatever the popular VPN service is, and people will switch to it because it's $1 less a month or whatever that number is. And now you not only are getting paid as whatever 3-letter agency needs this data, you're not only making money, you're getting all the data. So they're all hard to trust. You weren't really meant to be anonymous online. So, yeah, DEF CON's where you probably want to really think about it. Yeah, everything's jumping away. Everyone jumps away from Nord because they're the latest in the news, but some other company will get hacked tomorrow and they'll jump away from them and back over to Nord. That is the way of things. So, yeah, and whether or not you care about the privacy from your ISP. I don't, so I don't bother running one at home for my general usage. It's not anything I care about. I don't care if Comcast knows where I go, or Wide Open West, my home provider. So, yeah. That's kind of my, yeah. Let's see, what else we got here? Yeah, don't hate the protocol, hate the pirate. Web server control panel. I don't know. I don't use one. Everyone likes cPanel for managing websites. Yes, I know it's not open source, but it's the most popular one out there, and it works well. So I'm not sure of another one. What do we have here? What if the 3-letter agencies sell their own VPN service? Wait, there's holes in my tinfoil hat. Yeah, exactly. Wide Open West when they're not having bandwidth issues. Yeah, it happens. But they're affordable. I don't have any problems at home. It's actually been a wonderful service at home. We might get it as a backup service here. We've been looking at it. They have some really good offers on it, and it's crazy the fact that we have 3 or 4 ISPs that we can get at our location here. Michigan actually has a lot of competitiveness in the ISP market, which is weird. We may not have a lot of technology companies here. We're no Silicon Valley, but we got ISPs for reasons I don't know. Reasons. Yeah, but how much are you paying for that 1,050? So 75-35 is not terrible, and for the price they give for their consumer internet, because it doesn't come with like SLA agreements, I think it's adequate. So yeah, no bandwidth caps. That's a big thing. And they don't care about open ports. That's actually a good thing. I have servers at home, and no one at Wide Open West seems to care. Several of my friends run gaming servers on Wide Open West. It's completely, yeah, not a big deal at all. Plesk. I've heard that one before. I never used Plesk. Hello from Ann Arbor, over at A Squared. We got a local person here. Ann Arbor's about 30 miles west of us here at Lawrence Systems. I had something else I want to talk about, and I completely blanked on it, so I'm not sure what you guys want to talk about today. But Hong Kong, awesome. Hopefully things are going well over at Hong Kong. I know there's some issues over there. I'm not a political person that knows any details of it, so I can't speak to that. What else did we go? So Comcast, business only ISP. Yeah, a lot of people have the problem. Matter of fact, my friend who worked for Comcast, I don't know if he still does or not. I think he changed jobs, but when he worked there, he was at one of the down south locations, and we were talking. One of his big challenges was they wouldn't give him resources, and they wouldn't put this in writing because he would love to burn them, as he put it. But one of the things that was talked about jokingly was like, we're the only game in town. That was what they kind of with the attitude. So we don't want to spend any money on resources. We don't want to give you better equipment, better staff or training. We are leaving you shorthanded all the time because we won't hire any more people because there's no competition in the area. Therefore, we don't want to. That was kind of like how his management meetings just goes. He was working in management, and he just was sick of dealing with all the mad customers, and I know that's why he quit. But it was a challenge for him. He's just like, this is really aggravating because I can't service the clients. We're like telling people you're not going to have internet for a week because I have 4 guys to service the city. But Comcast's attitude was, yeah, so what? They can't switch because we're the only ISP. They don't have DSL. They didn't have any other options. They're the only internet provider for this area where he was down south, and that was their attitude. It sucked. It's sad, but that's a real problem. Oh, ERX, cool. Glad the hardware offload. Yep, that's an important little thing. Yep. Thanks for the shout out, and yeah, this is a mess here. Don't worry about, steer back to your topics. I will comment too, so let's go over to the YouTubes and see if that comment, I think the person deleted their comment, but I thought it was a dumb one, so I think they already deleted it. And I kind of laugh at this. This happens a lot when people go through, once I get it pulled up. Go over to the comments section. So that's the best place to go on YouTube, the comment section. What do we got here? Yeah, the person's... now this person had a right. Okay, the Cloudberry person deleted theirs. There was a back and forth, and it's in my email now, and I laughed, but they deleted it. They were complaining that, some of these cloud providers don't encrypt. And I'm like, yeah, for compliance, you better not be uploading unencrypted to the bucket. So in my video where I demoed the MSP360 software, I uploaded it to Backblaze. Backblaze, he's like, oh no, you can't use Backblaze. Backblaze doesn't encrypt. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was floored to think that they don't encrypt. I'm like, don't make it the responsibility of the cloud provider, whoever that is, to encrypt your data. You should be encrypting it prior to sending. Therefore, all the data that goes up, you should get encrypted and send it over to the cloud and keep it stored encrypted. That's a compliance thing and a good idea. That was my response. Like, you really should encrypt all that. I've talked about this with FreeNAS. I've talked about this, I believe, with the Synology, but I'm not sure. I think so. When I talked about cloud backups, I got to do a new version. There's some new software coming out for the Synology backup systems, and we've been doing more deployments with those. Encrypt. You never, if you're concerned about the data. My laptop, for example, I encrypt my laptop. Both my laptops, they have boot passwords. That's how I roll. As soon as they turn on, there's a password. Why? You want to always have data encrypted because the laptop died. That's like I said, terrible and tragic, but I'm not worried. If I would have had to send the laptop back, whatever, my hard drive's encrypted, so I'm not worried about anything that I had on there. Conveniently, just because, even though it's encrypted, I took the hard drive out and erased it real quick and popped it back in, and because we expected them actually want me to send the laptop back, we weren't sure, so I still erased it, but I'm not as worried. It's not a big concern on there, so you always encrypt everything. That's the number one rule. Kind of related to it, encrypted communication. Yeah, Lux. I use Lux encryption because I'm running Linux. It's just one of those things you really got to think about all the time. And once you get used to thinking about it time, my phone, same thing, passwords and encryption. The phone systems and the new lock system, people are talking about, it was the Google Pixel 4, which I'm debating if I want or not. The face unlock, I wouldn't use that because I don't want my face to unlock it. I want to keep the phone encrypted. I use digits, a number, like that, not a pattern. If you watch my Digital U, you know why I use a number. I talk about this because there's common patterns. You can sometimes just do this and see where people were sliding their hands around. So you always think about layers of encryptions, passwords when you boot up your phone, and then the tools you use on there. I've talked about this. I use Keybase and Signal. I don't use text messaging unless it's one-off things. Like when I meet new people, I may not have anything but a text message to get information to them, but therefore I make sure that if there's someone I'm going to communicate with, I move them to one of the encrypted things. Even with my kids, I move them to encrypted channels of communication. I also, ephemeral communication, if you're not familiar with the words, that's because not everyone thinks about this. They think about this long history of chat. No. Even with my wife, which sometimes doesn't go as well, when she wants to bring up something, but maybe it does, I don't know. I set all my, me and my wife will talk back and forth on Signal is our preferred method of communication. It's encrypted, it's ephemeral, and what ephemeral means, it expires, and I have it set to expire. It's of the moment, and after 7 days, all the messages are gone. So there's no long scroll back where we had any information. And if I have to send her something more confidential or whatever, same thing. It stays encrypted. Also, if you want to send a photo, one of the things you can do in Signal, you can make phone calls. You can also send photos directly without saving them to the phone and things like that. So you can get something sent directly to the other person. I actually like making phone calls over because the voice quality is actually great. Once again, it's a phone call that's encrypted. It's one of those, it doesn't cost anything extra here in 2019 to encrypt everything. Signal's free. The protocol doesn't have some major overheads or difficulties or challenges in using it. So it works really well. Even when we have a few of my friends, we have a group chat. The Signal group chat works great when you got a group, a couple people together that are using Signal. Works awesome with my tech friends. It's a great way to be communicating. And so does Keybase. Keybase's new chat features, I got to do an updated review of Keybase because they've added so many features. It's outstanding. And the same thing, they call them exploding messages inside of Keybase. Hopefully it doesn't get my channel flagged for some reason, but same thing. You can set an ephemeral message, as in you can set time limits on it, and it creates essentially a temporary key that only lasts as long as the timer. Therefore, when the key expires, there's no way to reverse that information. It's kind of encryption within encryption. And once again, way you go. VeriCrypt is free. Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't really used it, so let's see. Been using split DNS. What do you do? Lock things down more? DNS over TLS is a good way to go with that. What are your thoughts on corporate IT staff using Linux as security precaution and Windows corporate environment as additional defense measure against ransomware? See, the challenge is, if they're using tools, everyone's like, oh, you should switch this person to Linux. If they don't have software that works on Linux, you don't do it. We support Windows. Most of my money is made in doing Windows support through our MSP platform. And that's not changing anytime soon because there's not like QuickBooks is moving to a Linux version anytime soon. So I'm all for Linux when it makes sense. It's my preferred way to do it. I run Windows inside of a VM on my Linux box if I have to do something in Windows, but I don't usually. So from an IT perspective, my daily job doesn't require me to use it. A lot of my friends who do work in corporate IT don't use anything other than Linux. But if you have some program that runs only in Windows, then you only can do it in Windows. There's nothing you can do. Some corporate companies have VPNs that only work inside of Windows. Therefore, they have to run a Windows box. My friend used to work for a company like that. They had some silly VPN software, as he used to call it, that only ran in Windows, so he could only run Linux in a VM if he wanted to run Linux, which ends up not really running it, so he just had to have Windows on his work laptop. Oh, Brett's in traffic in A2. Sounds fun. Employee monitoring and screen recording? I don't know. I don't do any of that. That's a pain. Hire better people. I've actually just said that. If you have to screen record everything your staff is doing constantly and then try to police that, that's a lot of work. At some point, you've created your own monster trying to babysit your staff. I don't know. There's software out there that does it. I can't come up with any off the top of my head. And I've said this at the beginning. So Timothy Jacobs, yeah, backups are a defense against ransomware, but here's the problem. If those, if for some reason they can't restore the backups fast enough, that's a big challenge some of these places have. Even if with the fastest systems, restoring backups sometimes is slower than the decryption of the ransomware. Therefore, a business decision is made. The ransom's X dollars, the loss of business is more than X dollars based on how long it's going to take to restore. And by the way, even part of what we offer for most of our backup packages, we don't do free restore. So if I have to re-image computers because they got ransomware, there's a cost associated with it. So the client has to make a decision. Which cost is higher? My restore charge for the ransomware or the downtime and paying the ransom? It's a formula. So it's not just about having desktops, but yeah. The push for virtual desktops, they work sometimes, they don't work all the time. So one of the things about the virtual desktops is what happens when you have to plug in that local USB x-ray machine that loads an application on each computer so the dental office can do the x-rays. What about that company that needs the whatever other things plugged into it? What about all their scanners and tools that they use locally that tie to the local database server? Those are situations where it may not work. One of my friends who works in the financial sector, virtual desktop systems work awesome for them because they don't use anything. They have a bunch of spreadsheets, and like where my wife used to work, for example, everything was virtual desktop. They had dumb terminals essentially because all they really did was shuffle rich people's money. That's the best way I can describe my wife's whole job. She did wealth management, which means you move people's multi-million-dollar 401ks around. So that was all done in a virtual desktop environment. There's times when it's okay. The price is getting more reasonable, but it's got to get there to where it costs less to have it virtual, or as in the uptime could be less. And you have to be somewhere where you have fast internet, reliable internet. If they're somewhere in Michigan right here with multiple ISPs, awesome, because we're going to sell them 2 ISP packages to do virtual desktop. If they have one crappy ISP who internet goes down for a week, you suddenly have employees who can do absolutely nothing waiting for Comcast to come out. And if it goes down frequently, obviously they may not even be able to stay in business. This actually happened, not really happened, but one of our clients, he moved to a new location where he could get better internet because it was impacting his bottom line because he was in a place with only one provider. There are places in Michigan with only one provider. He moved his whole business because he runs on virtual desktop. So it's not a fit for everyone. Some people don't have an opportunity to simply pick up and move their business to somewhere where the internet's faster. So it's something you have to think about. There's always been a push for it because there's some conveniences of it. And a lot of time the push for it is because I see all these people trying to sell it and make money on it as a recurring revenue stream. So they're pushing it, trying to build a recurring revenue, but the business goes, that seems a lot more than we pay now. And they're going to have to think about that. Thank you, George Moody, for the How They Got Hacked Whiskey and Red Bull Fund for Mo. Awesome. I was using Boxcryptor. Yep, I've heard of it. I've never used it. If you find a client is usually web filtering enough, that's how I feel too. It's usually web filtering and things like that. And screen recording, I don't know the legalities of it, but for the most part, if it's a company laptop, if it's a company thing, they can, the boss has access to everything. The owner of the business has access to all the things that are company material. Just an FYI. I did make new pfSense videos for the person that said, hey dude, make pfSense. I did like 3 of them last week. I've been super busy this week though, so I didn't get as much done. Yeah, there's people that go places they shouldn't go. That's an all-day problem. Any suggestions on free NMS besides Libre or Zabbix? I don't know of any of them. We use Zabbix still here. The Libre NMS is pretty neat, but I play with it and I like Zabbix better. I don't really have suggestions for other ones because there could be other ones out there. I'm just not aware of them. So, and one of those, it's not really a comfort, it's also a timing. I've been using Zabbix for a while. It's one of those, it does everything I want. It doesn't leave me wanting for more. Hell, it even has, I don't think I covered this in my Zabbix video, but one of the things we have in Zabbix when we're monitoring stuff and we're setting more things up on it still, when you go to Zabbix, like when there's a problem, it lets you know which technician dealt with the problem. It's got its own like acknowledged ticket system it generates and everything. Like it's great. I haven't gone, man, it's missing some major feature, so I don't know. I got to start hunting for a new one and go through all the trouble. And by the way, Zabbix has survived every single update without me doing anything other than apt-get update. Like it just works. So Kit, thank you very much for the $10. And I don't have an answer other than I really like Zabbix. Let's see. Elon tweeted from the new Tesla Starlink system. So yeah, space internet. We'll go with that. That's definitely there. So, hey, everyone, like the video. There are 321 people and only 40 likes. Please change that. Help that algorithm, smash that like button, etc., etc. Virtual desktop licensing. So Microsoft is getting into the game, and the virtual desktop licensing in a Microsoft game is going to be interesting because I think they have a whole pay-per-usage thing. So that's going to be kind of cool. That's going to, and there's more companies getting into that model. So when you think about it from that, if you only pay per usage and you're only using it for X hours as opposed to all the time, you can reduce your cost. And I think they're going to find some happy middles, but I also feel like virtual desktop is a big band-aid on a market problem. Not everything's web-enabled, but as more things become web-enabled, suddenly the desktop for many business functions becomes irrelevant. So you don't even need to have it in the cloud. Look how much we can do in our browser now. And by the way, I've mentioned this before, think about this. Any new developers, what new developers are making desktop applications right now? What person getting out of college? What's that next startup that's building another desktop application? With the exception of the gaming market. That's it. And the gaming market doesn't fit well for that model. I know Strata is trying to change that with Google, but there's always been latency issues with getting the games from the data center to your desktop without any latency issues, kind of back to some of the same problems that you may have with some of the others. So outside of the gaming market, who's developing desktop applications right now? Pretty much every startup we see, every new application we talk to, everyone we deal with is the same thing. They're building a new web application. Look at how much you can do with Zen Orchestra, all in a web interface, all an HTML5 interface. Virtual desktops are kind of a patch for the fact that Microsoft has made hardware difficult to update, and updates random and a pain in the butt. So we can move it virtual, so we consolidate it. There's some advantages to the way you handle things in mass with a virtual desktop. But yeah, there's still, most of it centers around the fact that we're trying to run desktop applications. But as things get converted over to being a cloud-enabled, web-enabled application, life gets a lot easier. What is the image manager I mentioned? I don't. What image manager? Nagios, that's the other one. Nagios is weird. You have to compile it yourself versus Zabbix, you don't. So, any idea why VPN clients break out of a block of floating rule? I don't know. Something's not set up right. That's all I can tell you. See, where can I get stickers like the ones in your laptop? I try Unix stickers, but these are, I picked up physically. Well, I pay for Darknet Diaries. I'm a sponsor. So this is from Darknet Diaries. This is from Moped Riding. This is old, but most of this stuff is picked up at when I go to conferences. There's stickers on tables, so I don't know where you can buy them online, but I know Unix Stickers has a bunch of random stickers and things like that. So what else we got here? Scrolling down. Elk is neat, but you have to know what you're doing. So you have to be fairly familiar to set it up. There's some scripts that make it a little bit easier, but yeah. What else we got here? Yeah, once it's set up, Elk is pretty cool. Fog Project. Yeah, I haven't used Fog Project in years. I probably have a video on it, but I haven't used it in like a few years. Yeah, Zabbix or Grafana. Grafana is another one that's pretty cool too. Sticker Mule, that's the other one. They have some cheap stickers. Not public, thank you for $5. I find myself using XCP Gen Center on a WAN VM for setup. Networking seems more difficult than XOA. Otherwise, I like the XOA self-build. There's an update. So this is funny. One of the developers, we're friends, so he messages me sometimes. I got a great message, and it said, first time ever having a notice opened on GitHub for an issue, and a timestamp with your video was linked as to the issue. And because I commented in one of the videos how if you can create new networks in XO, the Zen Orchestra, but if you tried to rename them, that would give an error under certain conditions. And they fixed it in an update, so you can rename networks now. So that's actually been fixed. They updated the way the networking rename works within that system. So, all right. Password management recommendations. I only really found Passbolt when searching for FOSS only. There are two password managers. There's Bitwarden and there is KeePass. Those are the two open source ones that are out there. Bitwarden being the whole plugin system, KeePass being one of the really popular ones. If you're looking for a self-contained portable password manager, KeePass is kind of really popular for that. Yeah, latency, blah, 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 maybe. I don't know. There's still some challenges and things like that. Jerk Pass, yes. We've been talking about building the Jerk Pass system. Maybe we got to fork some open source thing on there. Yeah, the workflow is different because you have to know whether you're doing a pool network or you're doing a host network, and that's where it gets a little confusing in XOA versus the Zen Center software when you're setting up networking. So, have we heard of Ponagachi? You don't follow me on Twitter, where we have been tweeting pictures of our Ponagachi. Xavier has my Ponagachi right now because he's traveling, so I let him borrow my Ponagachi. So yes, we have not only heard of them, we've had one since before there were images, and we've been tweeting it, and they've been retweeting us. So I want to do a video on a project, pretty soon on a Ponagachi and how it works. KeePass this thing, absolutely, great choice. That can keep your files in sync and your passwords in sync and everything encrypted. We got to make a Jerk Pass shirt, that's for sure. That's been our joke, is that we'll make a password manager called Jerk Pass. I don't remember how someone suggested this in one of the How They Got Hacked videos, which is going to be tomorrow still. Xavier gets back in town, and he's going to be here tomorrow for the video, so that's going to be fun. Trying to decide between Azure VMs, the local rack server. I don't know which one would be better. It's hard to figure out sometimes which would be the best. Speaking of that, so I've been playing around a little bit with it. I'm not in depth in it by far, but the Azure Sentinel, I believe is what it's called. It's the new SIM tool from Azure. I'm looking at it. There's actually a way you can connect pfSense with it. And the way you do it, and I've only read the write-up, I have not functionally done this at all, but it looks straightforward at least, is you take and spin up a local Linux box, really basic one. You load like our syslog to it, so it can be a syslog server, and then you take the logs from a pfSense box and you send them to our syslog server. Then you install the Azure SIM tool, you break out and do some filtering with our syslog, and then you can take that box and have it stream over to Azure, and then it can make some SIM information and notify you of which IPs are potentially attack IPs and things like that. I've had an Azure account for a while. I don't use it much for any personal stuff, but I might do some videos on more cloud things because a few people have asked me. They're neat to be able to do that. I've always kind of liked, as much as we can, self-hosting it, because when you start adding it up, I mean, the cloud sounds like a great idea, and sometimes it is a great idea, but you always have to break down use case and figure out where you would save money. And I bring this up because there's a good article on, I think it was Serve the Home. They talked about moving their forums from a cloud-hosted to a shared rack space on their own hardware, and how much money it saved them doing that. But they also break down the disadvantages and advantages of running things on your own hardware and your own stack. The first one being, you own the problem, top to bottom, so build it right, build it with good hardware. But it's something to consider because those cloud fees add up quick. And once you've committed and built a lot of infrastructure in one of these cloud places, any type of price increase dramatically can affect you. I was talking to someone whose project now is getting things out of the cloud at a large automotive supplier because their bill is like $90,000 a month. And they're sitting there going, we can build out our own equipment at 90 grand a month. We just racked up such a bill because the cloud creep is what they frequently call it. Everyone could put something in the cloud. So everybody did. And next thing you know, the bill is really big. And then they didn't do a good job of figuring out which departments have what running and how much those costs are because they didn't delegate out the accounts properly, so there's some deciphering of which budget this goes under, other than IT. I don't know that KeyPass got forked. I mean, people fork open source things all the time. Forking it doesn't necessarily mean there's any quality in the fork. I've seen people fork things just for the hell of it, but they don't maintain the code base. Therefore, why'd they bother forking it? So be careful when you chose to follow a fork as opposed to the mainstream. Just throwing it out there. My ISP is throttling YouTube. You know if there's a way to get around it except VPN? Nope. VPN, and hopefully they don't throttle the VPN. That's about all you can do. Still not keen on MikroTik. Nope, I don't care about MikroTik, really. I mean, it's cheap. That's buy it if you like it. I don't have anything particularly against it. I mean, it had some security problems, but whatever. It was bad default configs. They fixed it. You know, that happens. But if you need cheap hardware, yes. But I have no interest in doing videos on it because why would I want to learn it? It's not something we ever plan to deploy in clients. So I know it helps out the cheap community, but that's the only incentive. And most of my videos are done in reverse from the way people think they're done. My videos may seem scattered. Why do they seem scattered? Why do I jump topics? I'm not. I'm doing a video on whatever project I'm working on. That's all. My channel works in the reverse of other channels, especially if you're like a full-time YouTuber, you're picking projects and maybe picking a series and creating it. I am just going over and reviewing things that I'm actively working on for clients, and I took the time to understand them, therefore I can make a YouTube video about them. We did a bunch of VPN configs for a client, so there was a few more VPN videos that came out. Which it's over here. We are doing a bunch of testing with one of these 5100s. Therefore, did some videos on it. So most of my videos are not driven by me running out and discovering a topic and writing a script. It's based on what I'm working on. So if for some reason some client wanted to pay me to learn MikroTik because they wanted me to do some re-infrastructure and they were insisting on using that hardware, you'd probably see a MikroTik video. So far, people want MikroTik videos because the damn things are hard to figure out. And we've worked on them for one project, and after working on it, I said, this is a horrible interface. And we got it working, but we hated every moment of working with that interface. We thought the software was terrible, and we got it to work, and we were also scratching our heads because minor changes that shouldn't have broke things, fixed things. Everything about it was bad, and I'm like, wow, I would never recommend this product. Matter of fact, even a client has since removed them and went to another solution. So my videos are based on projects we're working on, and if we like them. Last week, and someone was mad about it, of course, that we complained about OpenSense, but I don't know what to tell you. Like the client, by the way, removed OpenSense, put pfSense in, set up the VPNs. They are so much happier. The system works better in every way. So, yeah. What is the best enterprise firewall once you decide up a commercial budget of approximately $20,000? That's super subjective. Every salesperson tells you theirs is the best. I don't know. Here's the thing. I have seen full stacks of super expensive, state-of-the-art UTMs. Pick your poison, pick your high-end firewall, and we've seen a hack client on the other side of that firewall. So which one's the best? Which day of the week is it? The UTM feeds, UTMs are, to me, overhyped. They definitely keep out the amateurs for sure, but so much stuff is encrypted and so much of the attack vector is more complicated than just a basic UTM can even figure out. The best firewall is a real subjective term. And we've seen, and I've talked about this before, like Visa, MasterCard. If you look on ZipRecruiter, I have a video talking about how they were hiring for pfSense engineers. We've seen these used in very high-end places. By the way, once you get to the very large corporate side, the UTM is not necessarily the same box as the firewall anymore due to volume of data going through. So we actually see pfSense put in at some of these really high-end places because they've chose a completely separate system for the threat management and SIM tool. They're using some type of SIM tool like, Alien Data. I'll throw it out there. Even though AT&T bought them, I know the product is pretty popular. I've seen Security Onion deployed, but once again, these are deployed parallel to a firewall with port mirroring, not part of a singular appliance anymore to the scope and scale of the companies. So, and Palo Alto and those companies, they don't make a horrible product. I mean, Palo Alto seems fine. Checkpoint's pretty popular. But yeah, no use case for MikroTik. That's the best way to get it. If you have a cheap use case and you don't mind dealing with a horrible interface, go MikroTik. It's one of those things like, I have no money, but I have lots of time on my hands to learn things. Cool. I want something that works. There's better solutions out there generally. Yeah, use case is the best drinking game ever. You're going to get trashed, because I say that a lot. I say it a lot to a lot of people. This is part of terminology I use way more often than just in this video setting here. I don't have a use case for that. Because I've replied to many people that way, like everything from text messages. That doesn't interest me is also a phrase I use that drives my wife crazy. That doesn't interest me. So, thoughts and open sense. I shared my thoughts a minute ago. No reason to use it. I don't have a use case for that. I'll say that first again. Packet Pushers does some internet. Okay, I've never listened to Packet Pushers. A few people suggested them. Maybe I'll add them to my attempt to listen to this. I have so many podcasts, so many of them. What do you got here? My ISP router isn't that bad. That's shocking. Usually it's the lowest bidder, cheapest one, so. Yeah, Sonic Wall. I've always hated the Sonic Wall interface. Meraki, they seem okay. I've seen people love and hate them. I don't think they're bad. What else we got here? What's better quality than TeamViewer? I like Screen Connect, but not everyone likes the price on it. It's not cheap. Because what people do, oh my gosh, TeamViewer is expensive. They see the price on the tools we use and they go, oh my God, those are expensive. I'm like, good tooling costs money. We still really like Screen Connect. That's been our favorite go-to system. Now, for businesses, we generally set up RDP. VPN plus RDP is our go-to for business setups, like for people that want to remotely access their data. That's pretty normal. I've heard people tell me they like the Datto appliances. I've not used them, so I can't really answer that. I don't like systems that, if I can avoid them, we have clients using stuff like this, like we have some people I use Meraki. I don't like systems that require subscriptions, like to work. I understand not getting support when you don't have a subscription, but I don't like the concept of subscription or it turns off. And that's kind of like Meraki's business model. And I'm a little fuzzy, but I think Datto has that business model too. I don't know for sure. So I know a lot of people seem to like it. I don't hate it, but there's not I've never thought about switching to it because we're a SolarWinds company and Datto has their whole, and I think it's kind of cool. I know companies that are top to bottom Datto switches, Datto backups, Datto everything, and Datto dashboard with their Datto MSP tools, and it's kind of cool, but they're also single stack companies, and we're far from a single stack company. We use a lot of different tools. That it's a challenge, yeah. I mean, people are like, you can make more, you got to focus time and do one thing only. I'm like, that sounds absolutely boring to me. But I admit, there is some advantages when you're a single stack company because one of the MSPs local here, they're rip and replace. They don't care if you installed a brand new Cisco switch yesterday. If you sign up with them today, you're ripping and replacing. Everything's Datto top to bottom. They have everyone on the same platform, on the same dashboard, on the same thing. They're highly uniform with the way they do things. They're very strict. Now, this allows you to have a bunch of support staff that don't have to have a very diverse amount of skills. They only have to know one product because you only have one product. There's some advantages from a business standpoint. It's not the way I choose to do things, but you can absolutely do very well. They're successful at doing it that way. No, TeamViewer did not get hacked a few days ago. They got hacked several years ago. You're misreading the article. Years ago they got hacked. So I have videos on how to make guest network a pfSense. Look at my pfSense small office setup or my pfSense how to split networks. I believe one of them was even called guest network. So we do for our customers directly. We provide a lot of Office 365 support, way more than I like. So yeah, it's actually, so we'll do it for our local customers, but we're not a general help desk for the world because that's painful. We'll do it for our local customers and ones we have relationships with. We try to focus on some of the higher end network engineering. It's just better money and the help desk stuff. But for our business clients, we do have people that are doing that constantly. Matter of fact, it's like our joke at 10:01 is always some Office 365 problem. And I can attribute like my Tesla to Office 365 support. Office 365 is like, let's break. Why? Well, why not? It's Thursday. So let's do something stupid. Their 2FA system was down, what, Monday? Was it Friday or Monday? It just goes down all the time. It's always some stupid problem. Yeah, the add-ons and everything else. I'm not a fan of the product at all, but we support it. Matter of fact, we have lots and lots of clients on it. It's a great revenue generator, don't get me wrong. People ask me, well, what can I use instead of Outlook that doesn't crash? But it works exactly like Outlook. I'm like, nothing, use the web interface. Oh no, I have to use my Outlook on your desktop. Oh good, here's your bill. Once you have enough clients on it, there's plenty of support issues. It's just about volume. When you get to the level we're at with as many clients as we have all running it, you end up with a bunch of, you'll note, it's not like there's one person having all the problems. The problems are spread out. They just seem a lot because they all call us, and we have a lot of systems on our MSP package. And we have a lot of people that use Office 365 that aren't on our MSP package. So we have just all these businesses that call us for support, and we still have right around 300 businesses or more. I haven't counted in a while that we're doing IT support for. Like, they call us when they need something. They're not all under contract either. So this creates a lot of, like, our phone rings a lot. Matter of fact, if you want to know how much our phone rings, even several years ago when we were smaller, you can find a video where I talk about how many thousands of phone calls we get in a year. I have the stats, and that's from a few years ago. That stat's bigger now. So it's one of those, it's a scale thing. It's not like the product is breaking. It's also a perception. Once you have this many people using it, you get that, you notice there's a lot going on. Are you a Microsoft partner? No, I'm not. Oh yeah, the Microsoft support. We were helping out a guy the other day with some things, and Microsoft support still couldn't solve his weird problems with Hyper-V. I kind of laughed. They were 8 hours into the issue. I'm like, I'm glad they have support, but when you're 8 hours into a production Hyper-V system and you still can't figure out why it won't work, yeah. I've never been that impressed with their support. We never really bother calling Microsoft support. I never found them very useful. I'll find an answer on Stack Exchange before I'll find an answer or wait for an answer from Microsoft on things. That has generally been, I'll either solve it myself or I will find it on Stack Exchange, and it's faster than Microsoft. So, yeah, that's the thing. People always talk about open source like there's no support. I'm like, have you dealt with commercial software that you pay for the unpleasant experience with them? Like, I pay for the hell I get with some of these people, and I'm unhappy with it. I just solve the problem myself. And that's why I'm like, open source, I have the code. There's forums. There's other people who are willing to help. I'm willing to bet you'll get XCP-ng support faster for free in the forums than Citrix provided when it was Citrix, and they were charging you for the unpleasantness of it. Yeah. Do we manage the Office 365 and SolarWinds dashboard? We do not. IPS at home? I don't. You'll probably end up with a bunch of false positives and create a headache for yourself, but it's a fun game. Playing intrusion prevention at home with Suricata and tuning it at home, oh, it's a great game. Turn it up all the way and tune it. I have a video on tuning it. It's a great game called I Get to Play a NOC Engineer, and now you get to know what a NOC engineer does. Yeah, the XCP-ng forum is generally pretty good. So, and that's exactly it. Like Uncle Joey Playhouse said here, MS support sucks. You're paying them for support, and whenever people complain about open source, I'm like, I generally get better support from open source. Matter of fact, Red Hat is the multi-billion-dollar company that is by providing paid support for open source that doesn't suck. So, yeah. Suricata's buggy. No, any intrusion detection system that tries to figure out what's going on when it has a bunch of encrypted streams to deal with all the time is going to be problematic. There's a ton of false positives. Things look like other things. It flags stuff that you're like, oh yeah, it flagged this and flagged that. Welcome to being a NOC engineer. So, you look at network operations engineering and you're watching people who constantly spend all their time going through this and sorting it out. What's a false positive? What's that? I have friends that have worked as NOC engineers. It's a challenge when you're trying to look at streams and try to predict an attack or try to figure out this is an attack or that. I'm tuning a system right now for a client. The tuning is involved figuring out all their HVAC systems. That Suricata hates their HVAC system, so we spent a lot of time whitelisting the fact that Suricata thinks it should block everything that their HVAC system does. So Suricata won't stop snort even if you disable it. I don't know what that means. You either load Suricata or snort, for example, on pfSense, if that's what we're talking about. I don't recommend loading both. I don't even know if it will let you load both. You can pass PCI and HIPAA with a pfSense. So you can turn on Suricata, you can tune it, you can get it working. If you want to set it and forget it, where you have no problems, so to speak, and you don't have to think about it, buy a Meraki. I'm not a hater of some of these other tools. It comes down to where do you want to make the money. You either have Cisco making the money with their Meraki product because you go, I don't want to know that complicated network engineering stuff. I just want to turn it on and make recurring revenue from the client. Get Meraki. Be a salesperson. You don't have to have it. You can have less technical knowledge on how to set these things up. If you want to be in a position where you have more technical knowledge and you utilize that technical knowledge, that means you can make more money yourself without outsourcing it. That's fine too. So it comes down to someone's going to do the network engineering, whether you are paying a Meraki engineer or insert name of said company that has a subscription fee, and I've recommended on Tangle before. You either are paying a network engineer on their part or you're a network engineer. Those are your two options. So it depends on the client. So some clients have on-premise hardware, so that's the question. Do they set it up? Nobody does mail anymore. Mail is dead when it comes on-premise. But the on-premise hardware, for example, we have a client with SQL Server. They're not moving anytime soon because it ties to physical things that they do. They have scanners and things like that that run their store. They're not moving to the cloud anytime soon because there's not an easy connection for all the things that are in their office to connect to the cloud. It would be very difficult to try to bridge that. And if the client only has one internet connection, well, it's not going to save them any money because you have the dual internet connection. And by the time they pay all the cloud and hosting fees, moving it on the cloud would be expensive. It's not that expensive to host it internally and set them up on a backup and a solid piece of hardware. That's actually less money. dental offices we've been doing lately. We've been upgrading their offices. We look at the cloud. It's how do you back up all the x-rays they take? They've got scanners and USB cool things. They're neat. You stick them in your mouth and it takes a picture of your teeth. That plugs into a USB. That plugs into a little computer that's sitting in the operatory room. Putting that in the cloud, not easy. Now you have a bandwidth problem for one, and the fact that, you know, I have to figure out how to make I know we have to load the special drivers to get the x-ray camera to work, etc. How do you get all that to work in the cloud? That's not, the software they use isn't really, the software is really nice, but it's not ready for the cloud. So it depends on what they are. If Target had blocked the HVAC, they wouldn't be in the news. Well, no, if they would have put the HVAC on a separate network, which, by the way, this client does have it on separate networks. That's we've been working with them on that. But because we're running Suricata on all those separate networks as well, it's seeing and blocking some of the servers as it crosses over through the networks. But yeah, if you have, we actually set them up. Well, they weren't set up right. That's where they hired us. We are moving things and separating things. So. Every couple months, someone asks if USG has added more firewall features. Don't hold your breath. I don't like IDS and DNS blocked. It's just installing spying on endpoints. Intrusion detection systems are not that, because you're running them locally. You're downloading a rule set and blocking things based on said rule set. So it's not, they're not, the IDS IPS system isn't, unless, well, at least I'm going to speak specifically for Suricata. I'm not saying there's not some other one out there that doesn't do this, but Suricata just grabs feeds, so does Snort, and they process your data based on fed data to them. They don't export the data unless you tell it to implicitly. It doesn't send the data back out, so it's not a spying thing at all. So and you kind of need DNS. DNS is, if you don't have DNS, the internet becomes difficult. Dentrix, no, they're using EagleSoft. That's what EagleSoft, and there's another one, PracticeWorks. Those are the two that most all the dental offices have locally here that we've seen. I think all of them have one of those two softwares. So EagleSoft's actually really nice. Oh yeah, DNS filtering on endpoints, definitely. PracticeWorks is ancient. There's one of my staff saying that, so. DNS filtering on a per agent is actually nice, because then you get per agent level controls for web filtering. That's part of the SolarWinds stack. We really like that. That's kind of like easier for us, because then we can create policies and push them to a group of workstations, for example. We can say, blacklist or whitelist these sites, or create these rule sets and then push them to these as a policy level through the SolarWinds dashboard. That actually works really nice. So that's kind of one of our go-tos for doing things like that. There are 330 of you, but there's only 105 likes. Thumbs up or like button or whatever you call it. Yeah, Cisco Umbrella has that as well. They've got an endpoint DNS, and so does, I think, DNS Filter. They have one as well. I seen all the ads coming out. Oh, we're AI filtering on DNS, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how good any of them are, and once again, what day of the week is it? You'll watch any of these. They're only as good as the list, and the list is constantly got to be maintained and updated. So it's not bad. I mean, maybe you'll get a good day, but then there's something new that comes out. And by the way, I think it was 2 episodes ago. I haven't looked to remember which one it was, but one of the things that was being covered over at what we called Hunter's calls Tradecraft Tuesday. They talked about the fact that they were getting around all the DNS problems by taking temporary Azure domains. So they would hijack an Azure system and use that temporary .Microsoft domain. Therefore, no DNS blocked it. They were getting right through with sending files and attachments, and they had a valid domain because they were using some of those temp domains. And a lot of times that's why the bad actors will hijack valid domains, because when they send it out, before any system has a chance to go, that valid domain isn't valid now because we know it's been infected. They found that out because someone got infected. You're back to the cat and mouse problem of antivirus. So Tradecraft Tuesday, look for Huntress Labs YouTube channel. So Huntress Labs YouTube channel. They have some stuff on there. What about Facebook, Instagram ads? Any chance to block them with PFSense? You can use PF Blocker to block all kinds of things. But that, yeah. Yeah, all IDS IPS is cause anxiety. Yeah, if you turn it up to full, it's definitely going to be anxiety causing and fun to tune. Oh, let's see. Big fan of YouTube videos. Set up some home UniFi servers. Awesome. Lots of other tech stuff. First time caught one of these. Welcome to the live show. EagleSoft support sucks. We actually had the opposite. I'm going to say that the EagleSoft thing, well, we didn't need much support. It seemed pretty easy to use once you figured it out. So we don't, it seems to work. You're not going to be able to block YouTube ads. I'm going to throw it out there. Hopefully that doesn't get my channel flagged. But the problem is they're going to start embedding them. So when they embed them right into the ad server, nothing you can really do about it. So once that starts happening, and it is, these companies are going to stop you from doing any real blocking. So yeah. And I don't understand Pi-hole plus PFSense. If you PF Blocker is using, well, you can use the Pi-hole feeds. So you kind of do have it in one box. So I don't know, I don't understand the question. Roku streams differently, so that's a whole different. Some of those other devices, when you use Roku, because of the way they stream inline, they're not using or can't really be bothered by local DNS because they're encrypting everything. By the way, DOH makes DNS that much harder to do, so that's definitely going to be a problem if you're using DOH. And people have asked about this. And by the way, the phone doesn't care about your local encryption. So because of that, the phone automatically is going to go, hey, I'm going to bypass whatever I see for DNS. And I believe a form of DOH has been used. I remember I talked about it before I was looking into it, but you can look at how Android does it. But this is going to be there, DNS over HTTPS. I've got a video on this. So if we look for, I'm switching it. Actually, I got to do it this way. So if we go here, and someone says they couldn't find it, and I'm like, if I just type in DOH, it's literally the first result. I don't understand people can find it, but it's DNS over HTTPS. And this is, and there's more on here. There's videos on DNSSEC. I just like it. This is a write-up by Naked Security, which they have some write-ups on. I always like to share where some of my sources were from my material. So we'll just pull it up real quick if you're not familiar with it, because they had some cool graphics in here. And this is becoming more and more popular. What this does is over DNS. So there's not a separate connection. This is all done over 443. They're wrapping your encrypted DNS over a 443 connection. By doing that, you suddenly eliminated the ability to block, because if you blocked 443, you blocked me going to websites. So now the browser can bypass whatever is local and head right over there. That's what I was explaining in a video, and I believe I even have some graphics in the video. Let me look. Where do I have it? I actually go all the way here, and I show exactly the streams and how the stream looks. This video, I have it all broken down in here. This is how it means for web privacy. You break it. So people who are trying to use DNS for filtering the browser. Now this doesn't affect the computer. The computer is still using local DNS, but your browser is encapsulating the request from the browser all the way to the DNS. And it's a different way of supporting it. So I kind of like that. It's a really cool thing. And it breaks, though, a lot of people trying to do the filtering. ISPs are less than thrilled about it because they're used to having all those DNS records generally looked up by them. So it's a really, it's a cool protocol. I really like it, and it makes a lot of sense to do it. Greetings from Denmark, yes. Oh, yeah, I am making a Simpsons reference at the same time. Using TCP, yes, it does use TCP. 853 is TLS, encrypted DNS. There's encrypted DNS, but that's not running it over HTTP stream. So it's taking encrypted DNS and encapsulating it again in HTTP. So it's kind of double encapsulation. And it's all doing it over port 443. So yeah, DO is not DNSSEC. That's a different altogether. There's DNS TLS. There's a few different things. I may have conflated one of the things when I was talking about that, but there's encrypted DNS. There's wrapping encrypted DNS inside of an HTTP traffic, and there's also DNSSEC, and that's where your DNS security is an extension to like an extended validation of the DNS entries in there. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. What else we got in here? Yeah, DO is not DNSSEC. If I said that, I said it wrong. I meant encrypted DNS. I may have said the words DNSSEC. I will admit that I was wrong there if I said that. Let's see what else we got here. Installing quad monitors. That's awesome. Hopefully that covers some of the security things. Was there other questions people had related to this? I don't have forever. I've been talking and babbling for quite a while now. How long has this been going? Hour 20. I'll give you guys about 10 more minutes. I'll answer any questions and things like that. So we have determined that there is not any more UniFi news that I have to talk about. Oh, UniFi did remove, I will admit this, UniFi did do this. They updated their video software and removed the stupid advertisement. So I do need to, I thought about doing a video to update the fact that they removed the advertisement. So thumbs up on that. That's definitely awesome. Yeah, TLS is easier for a sysadmin to determine it because you can see TLS traffic over 853. You may not be able to intercept a encrypted DNS, but you can see it. Once you wrap it over in 443, you've become invisible to it. You're like, it's all HTTP traffic all of a sudden. So, Tyler, thank you very much and for throwing a few dollars at the channel. It is much appreciated. Did I check out Aruba switches? No interest in Aruba. I'm sure they make a good product. I just, no clients are using it right now, so I'm not going to buy one. Someone wants to send me one, maybe I'll check it out. It's a challenge. You know, I get a lot of people offering to pay me money for videos. That's popped up a few more times, and I don't do that either, in case anyone's wondering. It would feel very disingenuous for me to do it if you just gave me money to do something, especially when it's a product I'm not using. It would be very hard because I have no impetus. I have no desire to learn the product. So, yeah, remove that from a few of the clients, that whole UniFi ad thing. That was annoying. What type of programs do AD servers run on? I don't understand that as a question. The Realtek wireless buffer overflow. That's an interesting problem. It's fixed in Linux. The bigger question is, will it be fixed in the phones? I don't know. Will it be fixed in IoT devices that use it? Probably never. So that's the thing. So yeah, that's interesting. How do you isolate guest network from seeing other devices on the guest network? It's called network isolation, and you can just, if you're using UniFi, for example, it's a checkbox. Many devices that support guest network support isolation. It's just it's a switch you turn on, so easy enough. Yeah, a lot of different access points have it, not just UniFi, but UniFi does have it as well. So if you're referring to UniFi, they do have access point isolation, or device isolation. Experience a UR backup, it looks neat, but here's my problem with a lot of the different one-off tools like that. We have to look at things, and this is why I did this review of the MSP backup. We have to look at how we handle things at scale. And those things we're handling at scale are not necessarily located inside of our own infrastructure. They are scattered across all of our clients. I have to manage, because we have a lot of people who just buy backups from us and don't buy MSP. So I have all these people we're doing backups for. I have to have them all in dashboards and make sure and maintain and check for errors on all those backups and do consistency checks and occasional restores for, validation and testing. If I have to try to manage some one-off backup at each one of these clients, I wouldn't have any time to sell it. I would have to sell it at a super high expensive rate. So while Youra Backup seems like a pretty cool backup product, and if I was an IT guy for a business that I ran and I needed to manage my internal infrastructure, it's probably a good product. But from a dashboard and me managing computers at scale standpoint, I can't use it. To my knowledge, it has no way to do that. Therefore, it's not a product I can really dig into. So I've heard it's good. People told me it's awesome. Thumbs up, never tried it. I don't have a use case for that. Take a drink. What does isolation actually do on the back end? Isolation actually takes each device and stops them from talking to the other devices, much like your request was to stop it from seeing other devices. It's actually just creating rules that say there's no lateral movement. It creates a firewall rule around the device and says you can talk to nothing but the gateway. So it's like having its own little firewall for each device attached that can only go out to the gateway. So no lateral movement on the network. Yeah, you want to use it on the guest network because you don't want scanning to go around, as that's frequently what happens when you connect to a network. There's a lot of scanning. Keep the firewall turned on your laptop all the time. I did a video on if if you're scared on Linux of the command line, go ahead and turn on the UFW. And you have the one that has the UI interface. Also, by the way, and this is a good thing, Windows has really beefed up their firewall. And when you connect to a Wi-Fi network, by default, I think the first prompt is like not making that information public. Like I forget the setting, and I don't use Windows laptops very often, but you can do that. You can lock it down. So definitely advantage there. Nova Store backup, never heard of it. Don't know anything about it. I do know a lot about the MSP 360 Cloudberry backup. I just did a video on that. Watch my video if you're looking for something in-depth with a dashboard and very affordably priced. We are moving to that. That's why we did a video on it. We're putting more stuff in there. So it's just a nice system. We've looked at a few things, and I really like the Cloudberry method, and I explained it in that video of allowing me to choose different storage backends. That includes local storage, and something we're looking at is, do we rent some rack space and run our own storage at some point because of the issue that I brought up at the very beginning of the video where, and I'll show you real quick again, this is one of those things you can do. So the MSP 360 disaster recovery concern, what if you have a ton of data? Well, maybe storing that data here at our office is a good idea. You could configure that with the Cloudberry MSP 360. So I have the cool dashboard so I can monitor all the backups, but I want to keep the data local because if my client has some type of emergency, and they have 3 terabytes, 4 terabytes, 10 terabytes of data, I would have that here and be able to physically get that data over to them at a faster rate of speed. That is part of disaster recovery planning, is data warehousing. That may be something we get into depending on how clients' needs grow. That's something to consider. And Cloudberry could facilitate that. So I could still have all my cool managed backups, but I may have one of those storage points be local based on agreements we have with the client. Cisco actually has some good documentation about how network engineering works. That's another advantage Cisco does have. You go to the website, got a lot of cool stuff. So, interesting. Like I said, never heard of Nova Store. I've actually met the developers who work for MSP 360. We've been talking to them for over a year and a half, maybe longer, since I did that video. So one of the things about them is they seem like a solid, secure company. One of my gripes I have with a lot of these MSPs, tons of them, this aggravates the hell out of me. They start on price, and then they may go on to what they can resell something for. Somewhere down the pipe, somewhere way down there is, oh, I guess it's a secure product. And with things like there was a flaw, and actually let's go and look over here, and we'll pull this up. And this is one of those things. This is not a major flaw, but I have talked about this company before because of this. So let's go here. And where's it at? There it is. I'll pull up the CVE itself. So CVE 2019-14-510, abusing the Kaseya LAN cache FS admin by Blue Team Edition. This is something I tweeted. I'll drop it in the live stream here for you guys. But But this is one of those problems. These are, Kaseya is a big MSP tooling company, and someone found that Kaseya, when you set up the admin, the LAN cache admin system, was using pass the hash. Pass the hash can be sniffed and allow lateral movement between the systems. So this is an internal, not an externally facing security flaw. So if it requires a bad actor to be within the network, but this becomes a pivot point for them to be able to use and exploit this tool. There's a way to reconfigure it. There's a CVE attached to it. But this is my problem with all these MSPs. They're all about oh man, I can't believe how much money I'm spending with this company. I got to switch to another company. What's that company's security record? How do they do things? Have you talked to developers? What's their feelings on security? I think security before I even look at the product. That's something that concerns me. Price is important, don't get me wrong. I can't have the most expensive product where people wouldn't buy it. I get that, that makes sense. But if they don't make a secure product, it makes it hard for me to look at. So, and this is really hard for a startup, don't get me wrong. Some company starts up a new company and wants me to use their product. What's your security record? I have no visibility. Have you guys gone through some security audits? Have you gone through a code audit? By the way, a code audit can cost upwards of $100,000. Has that been done? Have you gone through a code review to make sure the code's secure? So whenever people throw out and suggest some random company, I don't know their history or what they've gone through. I've worked with the folks at MSP 360 for over a year and a half. Before I even considered it, SolarWinds. Their security team's good. There's a reason SolarWinds has not been in the news all the time for these problems. They have a really strong security team. I've met some of those developers. I've met people at ConnectWise too. I've met one of the ConnectWise developers not that long ago, and I've talked to and interacted with these people over the years and are really on top of a lot of these things. So this is one of those things I start with first, is a product secure? So I have no idea good or bad about Novastore, but this is one of those things. Like, just because a new backup company pops up doesn't mean, especially when you talk about something as critical as this that has access to clients' computers, why I don't necessarily jump on board with it right away. So, by the way, and when it comes to UniFi security, they're on HackerOne. They have some big bounties offered for bugs found in UniFi. So we've done our poking at it because we'd love to collect a bug bounty. They seem to have a pretty secure stack too. They also don't have a ton of CVEs floating around out there, so they seem to be pretty on top of it. What else we got here? Since UniFi moving to the protect customer experience is like an all-in-one appliance, I don't know. Some small businesses may like that. I don't know if it's a good market move or not. Yeah, there's solutions. I mean, there's local solutions, things that, like I said, for us, it's a scale problem. Once we have that many clients, we have to manage that many backups. We have to have some type of tool, or I'd have to hire a whole lot more people, which would dramatically drive up costs. So tooling that works really well, and backup systems that don't require much intervention because they just work, that kind of was our deciding factor why we started looking at the MSP 360. And we still like the SolarWinds one, but our cost overruns on there are honestly one of the problems, which I'm having a fun conversation with SolarWinds tomorrow. Results coming soon after I found out what I can and can't talk about with them. They took an interest in some of my videos, some higher ups at SolarWinds, and want to have a conversation with me, so that's going to be fun. Does Linux have its own volume shadow copy? They have their own thing they do, so it's different. That's the short answer. I don't know that's worthy of a video, but you don't. Linux file system handles locking different than Windows NTFS. Linux handles a lot of things differently because ext4 and ZFS just work differently. Would DOH and DOT break itself in a network that has TSL, SSL inspection? If you see, in order for that to work, in order to get SSL inspection to work, you can't see in an SSL unless you install a security certificate. So would it break it? Well, you're installing a security certificate. It all depends on, once you've installed that security certificate and added it to the trust of that system, it all depends on what other things you're doing. Are you doing things to manipulate that trust? So it could break it. It's one of those things. So it depends on how it's configured. But you have to add a certificate to get inspection. Therefore, you have the potential to break it. That would be true. Suricata, I like that over Snort. I don't have a real reason. I'm just used to using it. They're both good. No reply in forum yet. Well, if you expect up to minute support, good luck. That's a wonderful pipe dream. They do have paid support, and I've been told it's really good. So if you want to give them money, but the developers also live in France, so there's a time zone difference. Sometimes they do sleep. So the dev team is a lot of the dev team lives in Europe. I believe they live in France specifically, but they live in Europe. So you're gonna, yeah. And also, if you ask a question that doesn't make any sense, if you're not articulate, I ignore some things in my forums. People sometimes ask a question that just doesn't make any sense, and I'm like, I don't know what to say. Sometimes I'll comment, I don't understand your question, but yeah. Suricata does have good performance. I know that the newer version of Snort, I think, has multi-thread. I don't know. Once I switched to Suricata because it seemed to perform better, and this goes back years, I never bothered switching back to Snort. One of those, I know the Suricata product, I haven't had a reason to switch. It seems to work perfectly fine. So yeah, if you ask a question that doesn't make sense to anyone, or you come up with some weird use case, you're more likely to get, or I don't know what your question is, but try their forums. I don't post much in their forums. I've not had any problems or questions I couldn't figure out. So Snort 3 will be multi-threaded. Okay, I knew it was coming. I just didn't have a time frame or a when. But I think that's it. So a few more of you can click the like button before I wander off. I do have things I have to go address and do and all that fun stuff. Oh, look, my wife's saying what time I'll be home. She doesn't watch my live stream, so she doesn't know that I'm still live streaming. So anyways, what else we got? Anything else? Anything else for the good of the class? Anything else before I leave this live stream? How's the sound? I've been babbling for an hour and a half. Do these little things work? Do they work good? That's the question I'm trying to ask now. So I don't know if I'll review. I'm not the best at reviewing some of the gear I use. I like covering the gears. I don't hide in any way the gear I use, so I don't mind that part of it. I also don't mind showing the gear I use. And what I mean by that, we were talking about this before, and like, I don't hide the Stream Deck. When I did that interview with IT Pro TV, they actually wanted me to push one of the microphones out because it was in the back of the shot a little bit. Like, they think about that. I don't think about it at all. I'm like, I'm reviewing technology that you can see the technology, like this not being clipped onto my belt. It's actually sitting on the table. Not relevant. I don't try to hide the magic of it. Cost on MSP 360. It's pretty cheap. So cost on it is something, I don't remember. I mean, I'm not going to, it's like, it comes out to like $10 a month or something like that per system. I forget what it works out to be. It's pretty cheap. Maybe it's less than that. You can contact them for pricing. They're not difficult people at all, but the pricing system is really reasonable. Is the best way I could describe it. So each license you set up becomes a annual subscription, and for all the features you get, it's pretty cheap. Someone actually posted, let's actually look, because someone posted in my forums. I don't feel like logging in right now, but let me go to the comment section here. So everybody loves the comment section, right? Someone posted their pricing, but I think their prices are showing higher than what they actually are. And you get, the discounts go to 50% once you start adding a bunch of things in it. So what did someone do? There we go. I think they had the pricing in here. $6 a month, Linux or Mac for desktop server, but that gets lower. So that's like for the first 10, then the next, it's all tiered pricing. So let's say you have 30 machines in there. Well, now it goes down to like $3 a month or something like that. The pricing keeps going down, down, down. And let's go over here. Let's say you're using Wasabi Hot Cloud. Yeah. I know I spelled wasabi wrong, whatever. So 500 terabytes of storage is 29, is it Arena right? Yeah. $71 a year versus, it adds up. Let's say, I don't know how much, let's say we got 20 terabytes, so, or 32 terabytes of data at $2,300 a year in storage. So that's 32 terabytes. Then you have a bunch of these systems. And like I said, when you do this at scale, you can see it's reasonable. I noticed they left Backblaze off here. So if we Backblaze storage pricing. They have a calculator too. Oh, this is a talk about it. Yeah, there we go. Here's their storage pricing, and they're at 0.005 per gig per month. So let's say you have 100 gig monthly upload for 12 months. You'd let's go, what do we say, 3,200? So they're actually calculating a cost of about $2,000 a month as well. So it's similar to Wasabi. So they're pretty cheap here at Backblaze for storage. I'm impressed with how much we have in Backblaze and how little our bill is. I always kind of think that, but you can. I mean, this is a lot of data you can put in there. So it becomes a different calculator to do this, but you kind of get the idea. Oh, look, my stream, I have to refresh it. It doesn't have chat anymore. Chat stopped. Refresh the page. See if the chat comes back. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, portable drives and offsite. So let's see. How do you guys use Fast Track Automation Studio? Just wondering. I don't know what Fast Track Automation Studio is. So no, we haven't used it because I don't even know what it is. Backblaze server backups, many terabytes. Just make sure you're encrypting them. What do you think of the Jetway motherboards for pfSense? Never used them. Here's the thing. They're so... and pfSense, to my knowledge, in 2.5 doesn't have AES. I have 2 videos on that topic. You don't need it. Favorite HD manufacturer? I use Backblaze to figure out which one it is. So, hello from Pennsylvania, and we're on Pennsylvania Road. That means nothing. I just said it. So, but novel. File system backups. They have a cheaper for file system. Matter of fact, if you go file system only, Cloudberry has, if you're not doing full images, Cloudberry has an even cheaper backup plan for that. And they have, if you want to buy their standalone product, they still sell that perpetual license. Like you can buy once license for Cloudberry. So that's kind of a neat thing they have as well. They're one of those weird companies that sell that. So if you don't want their dashboard, you just want their backup tool. I have a review from a few years ago, and we have clients using it. That the standalone, like buy it once and just use it. They still sell that. So I think that's it. Thank you for joining on this live stream. Like I said, I could probably babble on forever, but I won't. Maybe you'll listen to me. I don't know. Fun note, because I can wander around like this, I can actually just go in the other room and keep talking. I can lean around. I'm not beholden to the microphone. This one. Oh, it's still out of frame, but there's a microphone here, and normally if I move away from it, so does the sound. So that's one advantage. I can move wherever I want and the sound stays the same. So if you can ever find the time, I'd love a video on keeping Backblaze server backup transaction costs low. I use FreeNAS and encrypt before upload. There's no, they're supposed to be in the 11.3, or maybe it's in the U7, 11.2 U7. Go through the FreeNAS, go through your errata. There's some note about changes they made to reduce the transaction costs. So if you're doing frequent backups, because the Backblaze has a transactional charge, there's a way to reduce it. There's a command line way to do it, and it's in the forums. I've never covered it in a video because it's not a problem we're running into. But there is a way and methodology. You have to do it from the command line, not through the UI, but they're adding it to the UI. It was in the bug report. If you search a problem, it comes up, there's a page for it, and there's a discussion on the topic. So, because people have asked me for it, and you know, and I, somewhere in my forums, I think I posted a link to the answer, but go over to the FreeNAS forums, and there's some methodology to do it. Because it's not a problem I'm experiencing, I have not implemented it, but other people are. It depends on how your data is and how you're backing it up, et cetera, et cetera. All right, thank you for joining me. I'm going to press the end stream button here. What is that one? Oh, this is the end button over here. This little spinny thing, my little Stream Deck Mini that Xavier likes to press the button on Fridays. Does this get a scratch on it? Oh, wow. There's a scratch on my Stream Deck Mini. Cool. All right, thanks for joining. Hit the like button if you're watching this now live. Hit it. If you're watching it in post, hit it. It works either way, but it's convenient and helps that YouTube algorithm and our algorithm-driven life direct people to watch this. Thank you very much for joining, and all right, have fun.